my parents asked me if I would. They'd be like, "Would you love your son if he was gay?" And I'm like, "Gay or not, that doesn't mean I will love my son."
Next comic, give it loud for everybody for Anthony Eugenio. We're gonna have the next comic. Very funny. Wayne Russell, everybody.
Welcome to the Open Mic Pain with Anthony and Wayne podcast.
Why, hello, everybody, and welcome to an Open Mic Pain with Anthony and Wayne. And we are here today with a special guest edition with somebody who has officially beaten the shit out of Wayne in comedy. That's for sure. And that is our boy, Maz. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, thank you guys so much for having me. This is awesome. This was a great intro. This is awesome.
Did you enjoy that intro? Was that
I
formal
actually
enough?
did. Not sarcastic at all. I am 100% enjoyed this.
Yes. And now, way less importantly, I mean, we call him number two here. We'll call him number two for the show, too, that you guys did together. That's Wayne Russell. How you doing, number two?
I'm doing good. I will say, if Maz beat the shit out of me in comedy, he pushed your shit in because you didn't even get up on stage.
You don't even know, though. You don't even know. I could have been right below you. I could have been 1 inch below you. I could have been last. We'll never know. But we do know that he did beat you for sure. They could have been like, my name could have not even been in the hat. They might have made a mistake. And there's a reason why I didn't get on the top of the stage. They were like, oh, fuck, where's your name? But they brought you on stage and then told you lost.
Is that normally a part of the intro? Because that is wow. This is an intro.
This is our everyday life. This isn't even podcasting. This is Anthony wakes up and sends me a hate text.
Yeah, well, I always gotta, every time we have a guest, let them know how much better than Wayne they are. Because everybody deserves to know that, at least once a day.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you think, Wayne? That's true,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I agree. I deserve it. I deserve every bit of it.
I love shitting on you for losing a contest that you placed in, that I was also in. I've been doing it forever because, again, by the numbers, I wasn't even in that contest. So what the hell are you talking about? I lost.
It was a good time. I will let you know. That contest was a good time.
That was a lot of fun.
If you don't know, Merrimack Valley funniest person, which, I mean, is that the law now? But I guess Maz won. And there was only one winner, unlike the South Shore contest where there was three. So even though I came in second, I technically won. Wayne, who came in second or third, there was only one winner, so he didn't get anything. He lost as much as I lost. So now that we got that clear and out of the way.
I do want to go on record. I'm going to say I was second. Carlos was definitely a third. And it was a far behind third, too. And he can fight me in a couple weeks on that.
See, they didn't, because there was only one winner and they didn't give a shit about that. I don't even know why they brought you guys on stage because they didn't even tell you if you were second or third. So you might have been eighth. Who knows? Maybe they fucked that up. I don't know.
They certainly did.
I'm still bitter. Maz, what did you do to wake up one day and go, I'm going to go on stage and make my family go, what?
Oh boy, that's first of all, what a left turn. I just want to say one thing about this contest before we move on. I did a show right after as a part of the whole thing, and I opened for Mike Kotropis, right? And then Jen Howell was hosting. Great host, by the way. And first thing that came out of my mouth, I was like, because she introduced me, she was like, oh, the winner of the Merrimack Valley funniest person coming up to the stage. I got on stage and I was like, I have no idea what Merrimack Valley is. Up to this point, I still have no idea how this can be so big, and it can be nothing. It can be like the biggest land in Massachusetts that I have no idea about, or it can be a neighborhood. And I'm like, okay, it's also a weird thing to put on a credit, right? Because if I say Merrimack Valley and I send it to people in Arizona, they're like, we didn't know valleys still exist. So it's an interesting. It's on my credits, but it's like, you know what I mean. Okay.
Yeah, we gotta take the credits we can take. My biggest. What was Yeah, our biggest credit for a long time was taking a class with Mike Atroba, so that's kind of work.
That was mine. You didn't even.
Yeah,
that
was Wayne. Yeah, I didn't even exactly. Wayne got the credit. I didn't even get that
the
credit.
turns
I
have
didn't take the
tabled.
class. Yeah, I know. I got no credit. What are my credits, Wayne? Best defiler of Wayne's corpse.
Didn't you just open for Mike and Mohegan?
I did. Well, I was supposed to be on that fucking Merrimack Valley show that you were on at Wicked Funny, and then Mike was like, "Hey, can you go do a fucking VFW instead?" And I was like,
I saw photos of that. I saw that.
"Yeah." So I didn't get to do the cool Wicked Funny, but you know, we work, my friend.
You did open for Steve Sweeney, and
That's awesome.
nothing against Mike. That might be slightly bigger credit.
Yeah, all right, so Maz, let me tell you about Steve Sweeney real quick. So
Yeah.
he did two shows with him, and the first time I did a show with him, he sat down at the table, brought me and the other comics over, ordered a weird drink from the bartender, and then walked away before the drink came. Very funny. And then I worked with him again, and he you've been to Navigation Brewing, so you know where you come into Navigation in the back of the building.
Yeah.
He pulled his car up right to the door, his car was almost touching the door. And then he turned on his dome light, and he played a brass flute inside of his car. I swear to God, I was staring out the window like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I saw that as well. We actually mentioned that in a podcast right after. We didn't talk about it. We didn't say it. This is the first time we've actually told that story.
I think about it every day.
Public. But we were doing some comedy tips, and one of the tips I said was always keep a flute in your car, and it was because of that.
Did he crush after that?
Annihilated.
Okay.
Well, not right after that, because what he did right after playing the flute was he got out of his car and he walked into the darkness of Chelmsford. It was the middle of the night, and he just walked into the darkness. And he came back with a coffee in a clear cup. I'm like, what is this? What is he doing?
It's like he found an AA meeting somewhere, and he's like, "Oh, free coffee, cool."
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, anything to annihilate, you know what I mean? Like anything to crush a show. But to answer your question, how did I just wake up one day and was like, I need to be funny to get to live? I didn't. That was never the case. That comedy was never on the radar at all. I moved to Boston a year and a half ago. And when I moved, I had no life. I didn't know anyone. I moved from Austin, Texas, the land of comedy. Big fan. I've been always watching comedy. I've been always going to shows, and I love Don't Tell shows, and I always front row guy. Like, I love comedy, right? So when I came here, no life, the only thing I could do is go to watch comedy. So I went to watch a Don't Tell show in Cambridge. Finished. It was a great show. Had a really big names on it. And after I finished, I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? Am I going to home? No life. Again, stressing the no life part. And then I got an ad for another comedy show nearby at 10 o'clock. That's a production called Doug Goof's Comedy around here in Boston. Go to the show. Great show. I go again next week. Great show again. And at the end of the second show, they said, hey guys, we are starting classes if you want to learn how to do this weird thing we do. And I said, well, I have no life. I better do something. Let me try this out. And in my head, it wasn't about comedy. It was about, if I get funnier, I'm going to be really lovable in corporate. They're going to love me in my job, and I'm going to get better life. That's what I thought, right? Then I go do the class, and I meet people that I'm very, very close friends up to this day. Like Boston comics, like Viv Martin. I don't know if you guys... Viv is an awesome comic in Boston. And Viv is my first friend in Boston. And then I would say the only really, really big advantage of a class is the camaraderie in a way. So you find some people to go to open mics with. And open mics alone are rough. When you start, especially, you don't have anything to say. You don't have any good thing to say. And it's going to be rough, and it's not going to be fun at all. So if you're going to suffer with friends, it's way better than suffering alone. So I would credit them a lot to that, to the Goofs. It was sort of Ryan, the guy who runs it, and like Isabel and Viv and some other people in the class. We started going to mics together. Every once in a while, we have a group chat. Hey, let's do that. And at the beginning, I mean, you guys know the game. It's pretty rough. it's not a good time. You don't have anything funny. We started to go before our graduation show, just to get an idea of the real world out there. Because in the graduation show, I feel weird for the people who do the class, never do a mic, and suddenly have their graduation show, which is going to be pleasant. It's going to be all friends and family. It's going to be fully sold out. They're going to laugh no matter what you say, and you'll be like, "Whoa, it's pretty easy. This is an easy life to live." And then that show ends, and you go out to the wild, and you're like, "Whoa, this is rough out there." So that's like in a really short, yeah, this is how I started. It was never about what I am about now. This is a very different person. Like, I changed so much in the last year and a half from that.
We got about like 50-50 people who either start in mics or they start in classes. And people ask us from time to time which one to do, and I never know what to tell them because I love that I didn't hear my first laugh for like a year. Like, I only did mics, never went to anything of a real show. Always just inside of people not paying attention. Ambush mics, they're called, where you go to a bar and you do a mic and everybody's like, what the fuck's going on? So that's it. And then I talked to like Lauren Sims, you now, and a bunch of other people who their first experience doing comedy was at a contest. And man, that sounds like a way funner way to start. You know, just to like... You get to see what professional comedy feels like, you know, where you can do that to a real crowd that's not your friends and family. But you get that right away. So I don't know, where do you land on that, Wayne? What would you do?
That's tough because I mean I'm in the same boat. You know, Anthony and I started a few days apart from one another at an open mic, and I feel like for me, I think that was the way for me. I think it depends on who you are. You know, I think that was the way for me. I don't know that I could have gone to a class. I think a class would have had too much time in between the the classes and everything, and then the showcase for me to puss out, which I definitely would have pussed out. And I almost did my first time, but I didn't have enough time to think about it. So I think for me personally, I think just going and doing it at least once, and then maybe a class after. But I think it depends on your personality.
Oh, I want to let you know how much hate I got when I started, only for the sole purpose is because I did a class. There is this weird mentality of some people. If you do a class, you're not real. You're taking the easy way in or some sort, that you have to suffer in the open mic world. By the way, taking the class doesn't mean you go out and you're booked. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, the class, I think the only reason I tell people to do class, first of all, to not be alone and miserable in the wild places we go, because it's not the most friendly places, I would say, right? And then the etiquette in a way, like how to get the mic off, stand behind, it's not in front of you. What is the light? What does this mean? You know, don't shit on the venue, don't shit on like all the I think that's what I learned in the class. Less writing. It wasn't that much about writing really. It was more about getting you on stage comfortably. You used to get on stage and you can talk to the mic, you can look at people's eyes, you can gauge what's happening. If you want to go to class for writing, I would not recommend that. Like, if you're out there in the world, already doing open mics, already have some minutes, and you'll be like, oh, I need to take this thing because of the great writing. Maybe somewhere out there somebody's teaching great writing, but I don't think that was not my experience from a class. It was more comfort than writing.
That's like 90%
more. So Anthony and I have both done one-on-one classes with Mike Katrobis, just kind of going over material, and I think that was kind of definitely beneficial. Not teaching you how to write per se, but having somebody look at it and say, okay, the way you wrote this could have a better impact if you changed this or did that, or you know what I mean? Not saying this is what's funny, this is not. It's just syntax and the way things are put together. I think that's maybe a better use of time in terms of classes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, when I did it with Mike, we barely did any writing, which was more Maz's thing. It wasn't so much like taking the mic off and being more comfortable. It was more like, here's how you say this to sound like you're saying it for the first time, which it lends to comfortability. That's what I was saying. Like, I think 90%, like your writing of your jokes is so subjective across the board, where I have so many people I watch that are comedians and I'm like, they're good. I hate everything that comes out of their mouth, but they're good. And because they're just comfortable on stage, and they got, that, to me, that's 90% of it. If you look like a comedian that's a professional, here's a good example. Wicked Funny Contest that we did, the finals. They had, I forgot the guy's name who went up after us, who was he was like a more of a pro comedian than we were. One of the Boston guys must be close with Chris or something like that. And anyways, I didn't particularly like his jokes for what I heard, but he was so stage present dominant that I heard people around me going, "Oh, that's a real guy. Like that's a guy, or that's the first real guy," type of thing. And it was just a thing that I don't know. It must be time developed to have a comfortability that you can't mimic early on, like we're trying to do on stage. I don't remember his name.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I was just hanging with him because we did a gig in the Cape to get he was there, and I love the hang as well of comedy. I don't know. That's a big part of it. You have to hang. You can't just. I mean, some people do it. Just go do their thing. Get that. It's not. You need to hang. Really, it's a big part of it. And we did the gig. I did it with Chris, the people behind the contest, CPF production, right? And then we hung until 2:30 in the morning. It's all about this, right? And the guy, and I totally understand what you mean. But at the end of the day, I think it's about styles, right? Some people, and they know exactly, and they're not finding it out. They know that they are very charismatic, and that's 70% of their stuff, right? It's just charisma. They can say anything; it'll be funny. And some people are. I would love to consider myself in that group of people who are like writers, material. If I give it to anyone, it will be funny. It's not about how I'm saying it. It's about if you read it, it'll be funny. And that's, I'm not like this is better than other, but just a different style. If you think of, I think one of the most charismatic people in the scene, Jack Hall. I don't know if you guys seen Jack perform.
I haven't seen him yet. No.
Super charismatic. He can say anything. He'll be funny, and he's been doing it for a long time. He's so comfortable. I think he's more comfortable on stage than off stage. Really, to be honest, it's more like supernatural. And some other people like me, I'm like just about writing. There's also Kathy Lynch, comic in Boston, just writing, and she does some act out, and she does stuff out of the right, but she is a very strong writer, and you can tell. I don't know. After a while, you hear people's set. You've heard so many sets. You're like, oh, writer, type of thing, and
yep. Yeah, you can tell too, because those are the type of people who take a simple idea and craft a well-rounded joke. That's usually what it is. The act-out guys are usually doing something way out in left field, which is what makes that good. I think if you act out a simple premise, that's where you get into something that's more hack than anything else. But yeah, no, I think about it quite a bit when it comes to writing now, more of setting up your writing to succeed as much as writing itself. Like, for instance, I have a joke about the equity of assholes in prison. And I know that if that's the first joke I do up front, I'm going to have a really hard time selling it because they don't really get me yet. They don't like me yet. And that's a weird fucking thing to try to get people to get into. But I found if I do 5 minutes of hey, this is about my family. This is about, this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, you guys like me now. And then I hit them with it. They can't help but be more receptive to it because they've already gone, oh, this guy's funny. And the one thing you don't want to do is tell yourself you're wrong, because who wants to do that? We're all ignorant people. We're right all the time. So once you say, hey, that guy's funny, he puts on the MAGA hat, you're still following him, baby, because you can't be wrong.
Yeah. Wayne, where are you on that spectrum? Because I'll tell you something really that happened to me, and I'll explain to you why. It's really tying to what you just said. It's so close. But Wayne, where are you on that?
I agree with Anthony. We have this conversation all the time because, I have some more off-color jokes, and Maz, you do too, which is actually, I want to go back to what you said about becoming more likable in corporate and knowing a lot of your material. I'm like, I don't think that would fly in corporate. but yeah, I think, we talk about this all the time where you do have to you have to sell yourself before you're going to sell anything, right? So the audience needs to know that they can like you before, and that you're willing to maybe make fun of yourself or whatever before you can go making fun of other people or other things.
We have to
And
trick them. You have to trick them. You're saying you want them to like you on purpose. They're never going to do that. You have to trick them to like you.
Yeah, exactly. Say, like, for instance, I have a joke that I do towards the end of my set now that I used to do in the beginning, and it never worked. It just never worked. And nope, that always works. Actually, I've actually only had one time where that didn't work. One time.
No, the throat cancer joke always works, 100%. But the cardiac count, or no, what is it? The last one that you do?
Down for Love. Yeah.
Down for Love itself works, but there's one cancer part in it where every time people go, "Why?" Every time someone's
connection.
like,
"Yeah." So the chemo connection part.
I know that joke very well.
That one's hit or miss, but
miss.
No, it's usually hit.
It's fucking miss.
It's usually a 50% hit. Either the audience laughs at 6 Months to Love, or they laugh at the part that
You're very big on if you see one person go, "Ha!" You're like, "That counts. Everybody put it on the fucking board. That's a win." Where if everybody else is like, "Holy shit," you don't take that in at all.
I don't know. Whatever. I think
that joke is so good.
Usually a 50-50. It's usually you get them in the beginning or the end of that. I don't normally get them both, but it's usually.
How many times have I seen that joke? How many times have I seen that joke? Yeah, me.
Know. A lot.
100? 150? I've never seen someone not go, "What the fuck?" when you said that part.
It's not a bad thing, to be honest. Like
It's not.
I am on that. Like I'm a very dark. Like I would say I'm the most dark. By the way, I really tone it down. Like in my writing, there's right so many things that I write that don't make it because I'm like, okay, this is a bit too much. Like we've pushed too far. And people be like, "Oh my God, your comedy is so..." And I'm like, you trust me, you have not seen the real dark. Sometimes it dies in small rooms because sometimes I try to push the envelope too far. But let me tell you something really funny. A funny story also about Mike. Kind of interesting. So when maybe like a year ago or so, maybe less than a year, I did the room with Mike for the first time. It was Gibbs Garage, right? I think it was one of the early times they did Gibbs. And I was doing 10 minutes. And I would say at the time, my 10 was okay. It was not the greatest 10 on earth, right? Like right now, my 10 is way stronger. And then I do some suicide jokes, right? And this is my thing. And back then, I used to close with them. Because I had the same thing. I was like, "Oh, I need them to like me for 7 minutes or 8 minutes. And then I'll hit them with suicide and they're going to be like, okay with it." Well, I had a really good 8 minutes. And then the plane didn't land. The plane just like had a rough ending. And Mike was okay with it, and Caroline Plummer was on the show, and she was like pretty okay with it, right? But I hated that. And then I tried to rework everything, and my formula now, open with suicide. Second joke. First joke is, here's my name, here's what it means. Second joke, suicide. Three jokes in a row for suicide. That's the formula for me. Because here's the thing. If they see that, by the way, when you do something, I don't know if people are like, know this. If you're going to do something dark, as dark as I do, you have to commit. You cannot half step into suicide and then back. You have to, 2 solid at least jokes. Don't stay too long because you'll lose them. But you cannot back off. You cannot do the first one and be like, oh my God, no. You have to lean in, right? So I do. The reason I do the second, part of the literally name joke, 3 suicide. It's because if that's how you open, they're like, okay, it is what it is. That guy messed in the head. 10 to 15 minutes of that, and no matter what you say, for me at least, but the jokes are funny. The suicide jokes, they're not just like, "Oh, I want to die," because there's a lot of those, and those are not funny. You have to find something really funny about it. The jokes are funny. It's heavy. They're like, okay, that's him. That's him for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And they're pleasantly surprised because the 10, 15 minutes are not all like that. After that, it gets silly. It gets about, racism stories that are like, oh, this funny thing happened. Egypt is a little bit different. Like some sex stuff. It's not all dark. And they're pleasantly surprised. That's at least what I found. Like I played with the placement of dark stuff. The end is not it because you want to close. So you want your last 3 to 4 minutes to be absolutely bulletproof. Nothing can go wrong in these few minutes. And yeah, that's now what I do. And by the way, right now the middle of my set is very dark.
Yeah, that's what I do now.
Darker
All
than
my dark
Suicide.
stuff is in the middle.
Yeah. Like I open with Suicide, and I get a feeling, and I'm gonna still do the heavy stuff in the middle. But how many tags am I gonna punch? Right? Like I do stuff about child labor. I do abortion. I do about killing babies. I do like there's so much heavy. But like, how many tags am I gonna do? Am I gonna do all the tags? Depends on how they did on the Suicide part in the top.
Yeah, that's a good point. That makes sense. So now, do you tailor your set placement to the crowd at all? Meaning, do you go in and go, "As good amount of old people here, I should probably do my set with this kind of jokes in it." That's what I've been doing lately. It's real. I'm binary on this. I got like, are they old? Or are they young? That's kind of all I can place it on right now for the most part. And I'm like, if they're young, I think I can get away with some of the more bluer stuff in the middle. Talk less about kids. Talk more about abstract. If they're older, I feel like if I hit them with kid stuff, that tends to go over better. Now, are you content specifically looking at crowd and changing stuff, or do you go, this is the set, this is where you're getting everybody?
Very little amount. Like I have some jokes I know if they're older, they're not gonna even understand these jokes. So if they're older, I will just replace these jokes, at least on the spot in my head, with some other stuff, some general funny stuff, not tailor-made. But I usually have a plan, sort of a decision chart in my head while I'm performing. If this go this direction, if this go this other direction, and if not, like maybe it's just say if this, maybe it's not necessarily a totally different direction, just a replacement. Just don't stack heavy. Just maybe sandwich some light in the middle if they're not really feeling the heavy stuff. Because people also love the high and low. I mean, yeah, you want to be funny the entire way, but like the content of light and dark and light and dark. You see a lot of really big comics when they do the hour or they do special. They do a jokes and then they say something very real about their life or about their fame or about something, and suddenly there's a new joke. And so it's not all like some people do that, like Mark Norman. It's fully like loaded. It's like a machine gun of jokes. But Hassan Minhaj, the guy when his special, he would tense the moment. He'd be like, "Oh, my family was a true story. Like my family almost got killed. That we were threatened by these politicians. Blah blah blah." Then a joke, and that keeps the people super engaged.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of my sets now. I've put a couple runner jokes, I called them, towards the like middle to end of the set, where I have a kind of long setup to it, where I normally don't like. I'm like bang, bang, bang on all my jokes, and I like to have quick punchlines in them. But I like long runner setups towards the end of the set once people are bought in, because to your point, I think they like that break a little bit, just to hear like slowly setting up this joke. Because then I have a joke about my wife asking me questions, and the end of and she asks like what my final wishes are. And she wants me to ask her the same question. I say, they're never going to find your body. That's the end of the joke. So that run up to that is a really long run up of like, it sounds like I'm being cute and I'm talking about her. And, I say the moral of the story from my whole set is you should live in the moment. And then to do that turn like that, I've made it my closer because it's such a big, powerful hit at the end.
Yeah.
And I like you said, I like that little slow build up to it.
They get tired, by the way. Like, because I am also a lot of my jokes are short format, but they get tired. Like, I'm doing a long set this weekend in Maine, 25 minutes. I cannot just keep punching for 15 to 20. Like, we have to like, ease them in a little bit at some point, maybe do a little bit of crowd work. Crowd work, not in the sense of like, because I don't like when people be like, what is your favorite category to watch, or what's your too much. Maybe something that will lead to your joke. Like, oh, what's your name? I like names. Names, they have me, and then it's a force. I'm forcing you into my jokes. Like, but you think it's like a magic trick. You think you have a choice, really, but you don't. But yeah.
Wayne, you're next.
Sorry, I had a little technical
piece of shit.
difficulty on my end here. Yeah, it's funny.
Always.
It's funny you mentioned that about the longer sets and trying to navigate that. I'm doing featuring for Carolyn Plummer and the Cape on New Year's and doing a 20+ minute set. And I've been trying to think about my set and placement, like you said. Like, the people are going to get tired. You can only laugh so long before you're like, holy shit, I need to catch my breath. So I think that is obviously comes with experience and doing it more, but figuring out placement of your rapid fire jokes and then a bit of a lull with maybe some story and then some maybe rapid fire again, a little bit of foreplay, get into it.
You know how I did it? So I've been featuring a lot lately, and I wondered about the same thing. So, but I've been doing a lot of 20-minute sets. And what I've been able to come up with for myself is I just added 2 on-purpose drink breaks where I take a sip. And it slowed me down so much in the set itself where I'm not just standing on the tip of the stage going bang, 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 bang. I'm walking back. I'm putting bigger pauses in between jokes and all that. And it really made, like, if I did 18 of my minutes in 5-minute set increments, I can get 20 minutes out of it with doing the same exact stuff but more relaxed. And that was a big Mike Katrobas thing. He said early on he was trying to get me to do more time. And he's like, you have a strong 15 minutes. Take that same 15 minutes and now go to do 20 minutes. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, make that last 20 minutes. He's like, just slow down and be more comfortable on there. And that's huge. I'm a completely different person. If you put me in 15 minutes and below, one energy and aggression, 15 minutes and above, completely different demeanor. Because you got to be, because you're going to be later in the lineup. They're going to be tired, like you said, and you just got to be cool. You got to get them to buy into you.
Oh yeah, and I mean, who did like Bolger? I don't know if you talked to Dan Bolger. Very cool, like, one of the greats, one of the best in Boston, right? And he won the Boston Comedy Festival, I think, when he was 20 years old. Something like it. He's been very good writer. And we have this. It's a joke, but it's a partially true story, I think, that I heard. And he was like, he had 5 minutes. He did very well. And I think he went to the finals, and they needed more than 5 minutes. And someone was like, just talk slower. And he won. So yeah. I like longer sets because there's a lot of freedom, really. Like, when I'm doing 10, if somebody dies in the crowd, I'm not going to react to that. Because I have shit I need to say. Like, I don't have time to entertain any of that, right? But if I'm doing 25, something weird happens, somebody looks interesting, I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna talk to them. I'm gonna engage them and be like, hey, oh, really? You laughed too hard on it. What's up? Who has a messed up dog in this table? What's going on? Why are you all pointing at this man here? Are you the one with the dog missing an eye and 2 limbs? Like, what's going on here? I did that. I did a set. That was I did a set in college. Like, we performed in a college for their welcome back party. Theater level, 200 seats. And I was like, whoa. Before we go on, I talked to the producer, and I was like, you want this clean, right? He was like, no, not clean. Just forget about that. Just do whatever you need to do. And we went wild, and these kids were not expecting dirty. And me and like Viv and Joe Fenty, we just went. And it was awesome because I had 20 and Joe was doing 40. So he had all the time in the world to make fun of them. And not fun of them, but like suddenly you say something and they freak out. And you can point it out, and it's even funnier to them that they freaked out, right? And I enjoy that part. But I just want to say, it takes a very long time of trial and error to have 15 that you are really trusting.
It's true.
Yep.
It's true. It does take a long time. It's just, the good thing about it, the last thing I'll say about a long set in my regard, is I really like the fact that in there, you could bomb a couple jokes in a 20-minute set, and it doesn't even matter. You're like, all right, I'm trying something. And you move right on. It doesn't matter. If I bomb a joke in 10 minutes, I'm like, like in the middle of it, I can't finish my set.
Yeah. I guess also, like, why did it bomb? I think that's what bothers me the most. like, why did it bomb? I don't care if it bombs, really, but I'm very, very analytical about my sets. Like, I listen to everything tens of times. I'm like, why did this not work? Right? And these are the things that keep me going. It's like, why did this not work today? Like, what is off? Is my delivery? Is my cadence? Or because I never assume it's the crowd, really, to be honest with you.
Steve Bjork said that exact same thing, and I've been trying to live by that forever now. For like 2 months since he said it, he goes, "Remember, it's never the crowd." He's like,
Zero.
"If it went bad, it's you said it differently, you couched it, you probably kept something in, you didn't get them to like you." He's like, "Who goes to a comedy show not to laugh?" He's like, "They're coming here to laugh. You didn't get them to laugh. It's you." And I'm like, "Wow, he's fucking right."
Yeah.
I still agree with it, but like still like 95%. For some, and not because it's not funny.
Just the times
se,
I bombed. Just those times.
No, it's definitely me most of the time. But there was, so we talked about this before. The night after the Wicked Funny contest, I went back to Wicked Funny, and I did the same 7-minute set, same place, same way, completely different crowd, and I bombed. It was, I mean, I had some scattered laughter here and there, but it was rough. And
well, you know, my counter to that would be, Wayne. I'm sorry. Did you finish your thought? You were saying, "And."
No, I'll finish after. Go ahead.
So my counter to that would be maybe the stuff that you had is not strong enough for a. Not saying it is. This is just devil. Like, this is me saying it's your fault. If like maybe the stuff that you have is good for a particular set of crowds. Like maybe it's good for just old people, and you got a young people crowd that night, and they fucking hated you. Where because the crowd's different, you did bad, but your material wasn't like universal enough to get everybody else. So in that sense, it is your fault. You need to do stuff that anybody can like. Where if you just go, well, it's the crowd's fault because they didn't like me that stuff, and I did the same set after. Well, they were different people. Maybe they were a different demographic of people, and that alone is why that happened. Huh?
So that's kind of what I was going to say was I can't. Oh my god, I can't remember the guy who the headliner. I can't remember his name at the moment. It's tip of my tongue. But he's kind of a Jim Collin. It was Jim Collin. He's kind of he's a much cleaner comic, you know, and I have some blue stuff, and I'm wondering in that particular night, the crowd was there obviously to see the headliner, and yeah, they were older.
They?
I mean, yeah.
Do you think that Jim was? Do you think they weren't just going to see a comedy show that night? You think Jim was specifically drawing those people for his fans?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I think so.
I don't know.
100%.
I just don't know. Like Jimmy Cash is the first headliner I've ever worked who did that.
Yep. No, I'm pretty sure they were. And I think they were just kind of more squeaky clean. And there was one joke I did in the beginning where I think I lost them. Which is the Dick Spencer joke. I don't know if you ever. Yeah, I think you've heard me do that about selling. So your
point is that it was the crowd.
I'm still gonna say maybe 50-50. I think it wasn't their cup of tea.
I think a good trick for that is sort of calibration joke. So I have 2-3 jokes. I don't care where we are on this planet; they will work. Like they will work, right? So I would listen to how these jokes did, right? So I have this one very short joke too. It's the guy said, "Go back to where you came." Like when I asked about food, and he said, "Back where you came from," and I said, "Wow, he was right." I listen to the laughs on this joke, and this is my calibration for the set. If when I'm listening back, that joke is doing normal, as it usually does, and some stuff are not doing well, it's the stuff, because that joke worked, right? If that joke is not doing well, okay, I'll take that set with a grain of salt. I'll be like, okay, maybe it wasn't fully 100% the crowd that day. I'll try it again, same exact thing another day, and see if it happens again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like to use calibration jokes. I don't know if you guys do this, but in my set, I remember when I started, I was so lucky when I started, because the way the class was, every week it would be a different sort of instructor, sort of advisor, call it whatever you want to call it. But there are different people from New York who are coming to headline in Boston. So I got some of the craziest names in the game to drop in knowledge for an hour, right? So someone like Maddie Weiner one of the just did the Late Show and finalist in the New York Funniest Comic, and it's like crazy credits. Daniel Simonson, regular at the Cellar. Like there's people like that. And I remember Maddie Weiner one time, we were talking about something, very humble, very nice person. And she's like, yeah, guys, I only have 2 minutes of material. Which is not true. She has hours. But in her head, she's like, I have 2 funny minutes. And that's what I feel. I feel like I have 3 jokes. I'm doing 25 minutes, but I feel like I have literally 3 jokes that are nuclear proof. There's no world they're not going to work. And these are the ones I use for that calibration process.
That makes sense. Sorry,
that was kind of what I was getting at. You know, you have that joke. If it doesn't work, then you know that a lot of your other stuff probably isn't going to work. And when I say the crowd, I don't mean that the crowd's a bad crowd. It's just not their cup of tea. It's not what they find funny per se.
Yeah.
You know, just like we all probably agree that Louis C.K. is very funny, right? Probably one of the best ever. But I have met people that go, I don't get him.
Yeah, you're right.
And if you get a crowd going to see, I don't know, let's just say like a Christian comic, right? And you take that, and Louis C.K. goes up to open a feature for that Christian comic. Do you think that Christian audience that is there for the squeaky clean Jesus comedy is going to find him funny? That's kind of where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
If he did his set the exact way that he normally does his set, knowing that the Christian audience was there, then you're right. But do you think Louis does his set the exact way he normally does, knowing those parameters?
That's not what I'm saying. Obviously, he's going to be much better, and he's going to change it up for that. I'm just giving an example.
Give a stupid one. Give a better one.
Yeah, no, but it's not. It's I'm with like I feel like maybe it's like 95%. It's you, and maybe we'll give it a 5% of like situational like problem. Like it's an off night, and everybody has off nights. By the way, I've seen headliners have off nights.
Oh yeah.
No, Wayne is right though about the cup of tea side of things, because like for instance, Bert Kreischer's crowd is going to be like at a macro level. I think if we're talking about famous comedians, like you go Bert Kreischer's crowd versus even Tom Segura's crowd, and those two talk about how they don't like to do shows together because their crowds are so different, and they feel like they don't get the response between them because the fans there. So I could see that. I just like to pretend that it was like when Wayne does bad, I'm like, Wayne, it was 100% your fault.
So here's a question I have for you, Maz, because of the darker material that you do, and you perform in front of a lot of different crowds.
Yeah.
What feeling do you get when you see like an old blue hair lady, and you do a suicide joke or a work shooter joke or something like that, and she's just dying laughing? Because it's not the kind of thing you would expect, right? How does that make you feel?
Awesome. I mean, let me tell you something. So the suicide jokes, right? Because it's not really suicide jokes. It's just wordplay. It's like, oh, normal people don't think about it. And I'm like, wow, they just do it. Like, what do you mean don't they think about it, right?
Yeah.
And then they would say, like, you should stop the suicide joke. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it will stop. That is the plan. Like that. These are all not like hardcore. But let me tell you about a joke. I love when I open with these things and they laugh, and I'm like, wow, what a great day. But I'm telling you, and this might be a little bit diabolical, and it's coming from also my favorite comedian. My favorite comedian almost of all time is very dark. Adrienne Iapalucci. She has a special now on Netflix called The Dark Queen. Please watch that, just to see how dark it can get, right? But she used to open for Louis for the longest time, and he would say he would talk about her publicly, and he's like, I love to stand behind stage when she's performing to hear the groans, because that by the way, that's Louis like fans. These are people ready for anything, but she is way higher dark than Louis, right? But I like the feeling when I have this new joke, because I do some stuff about my parents asked me if I would. They'd be like, would you love your son if he was gay? And I'm like, gay or not, that doesn't mean I will love my son. These are unrelated issues. But the new joke that I'm really big fan of, and that gets me the best reaction of the night. I hate kids, but they make great clothes. And that joke gets it gets laughs, but it gets also like it gets those deep groans, and I don't back off. The next two tags are about how great the material that children make, like how great the clothes are, and how all my clothes kids make, and how this lady said, "Oh, I ethically source all my clothes," and I'm like, "Yeah, mine. That's why mine are much better. Because they're the best." And these jokes are like so. These are my favorite feelings on stage, to be honest with you, because you like me. I don't do this on top. I do this sort of 4 or 5 minute mark in, right? So you like me. It's really hard to just be like, "Oh, fuck that guy," and you're laughing. You don't want to laugh. You don't want to laugh, but you're laughing, and I enjoy these more than I would say I enjoy the laughter on these more than the jokes that I'm 100% are gonna work, because I'm like, "Oh, I got you," like sort of moment. I have abortion jokes that people are like, "Ugh, it's very divisive. It splits the room." And I perform in a lot of different. I perform in Boston. I perform in the suburb, in the middle of nothing, in Massachusetts, right? So when I go on stage and I say, "Oh, let's find a good one." "Oh, I'm pro-choice, as long as the choice is abortion." People are like, "Okay, whoa." So these are the jokes that I enjoy the most, and I think this gets to a conversation of, at some point of writing, there's a difference between what you can write and what you want to write. Right? I can make an easy, funny joke from any object around me right now, but is that what I want to write? Is that what I want to like really make myself known for? And I don't know. It helps me a lot to think about it like that. I think there was a really big comic. I'm blanking on her name. She's a Japanese comic, very well known. She has HBO specials and everything. She was saying
Wong?
you have. What is it?
Ali Wong?
No. Something Otsuko or Otsuko. That's her last name. I need to pull it up.
I just named an Asian comedian. I knew that was racist of me, but I was like, yeah, I know one.
And she was like, you have to think of your jokes, even if they're funny. You have to think, why are they laughing? Are they laughing from shock? Are they laughing from aha moment? Are they laughing from relation to the joke, like it happened to them? Or are they laughing because you took your pants off and you're swinging your dick on stage and it's cringe and they're laughing in cringe? And that really helps me a lot when I write. I after I write something, I will like, they're gonna laugh, but why are they laughing?
Yeah. You kind of struck a memory with me. When you said, "Would you love your son if he was gay?" I had a nephew who Anthony knows my nephew. Love him dearly. There was a while we thought he might have been gay, and I hung out with him quite a bit, and I pulled him aside.
It was so funny. Sorry, real quick aside. We thought he was gay for not gay. Like now, why we thought he was gay was very bigoted of us to think that. But he'd be like, he'd bend over to pick something up. I'm like, that's the gayest way you could bend over to pick that up. Like, that's just, I don't know. You know it when you see it. You know what I mean? It's like with the definition of pornography. It's like you just know it when you see it.
So this was long before I ever stepped foot on stage to tell a joke, and I just couldn't help myself. I pulled him aside, and I started out very serious. I was like, "Hey, bud, it's okay if you're gay. I'm still gonna love you. Quite a bit less, but I'm gonna love you."
Yeah, it was a poor thing for the kid to hear, but at the same time, the way he arched his back when he went to it's just, you shouldn't bend like that. You shouldn't, unless you're trying to be in a great. This is so good to be in love with a man like that. It's so good. God damn it,
being gay
more
or
of that.
No,
not gay.
He was a longtime girlfriend.
Yep.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. He's flexible. He played into it. He kind of has the funny bone as well. He definitely played into it a lot. He knew he was getting laughs, or whatever when he was. He played into it quite a bit. But
he's like, guys, isn't this funny?
Oh, I mean, it's so funny. Okay, let me tell you a funny story that happened recently. So I'm from Egypt, right? I grew up in Egypt. I just got to the U.S. like 4 years ago or so, right? And I was talking to my mom recently, and all my best friends are gay and lesbians, right? These are all my best friends. And I was telling my mom, and she doesn't really fully understand the Western culture in a way. And she's like, Maz, I mean, if all of your friends are gay, does that mean that you watch them fuck? And I was like, you see, that's how straight I am. My mom thinks I am. Like, she's like, there is no way he can be gay. It's not even an option on the table for him to be gay, but it is an option for him to be a creep. Like, this is available.
She's like, he is very analytical, so I'm sure he did want to see how it worked and how
He cannot be gay.
Nothing
like I'm gonna make a joke about it because it's so funny, like how so like locked mentality about it. I was talking to one of my friends, we're writing together, workshopping and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is like, like when you were young, and your parents are like, well, if like when you say, oh, all my friends are doing it, and they'd be like, if all your friends are jumping off a bridge, you should watch them do that. That's exactly how my mom thinks the world is working. And I was like, it's so funny. It's so also innocent. She no hate at all. She's like, you're just watching. There's no way you will do that.
Now, what is she? Because I'm sure, and now let me assume for a second, and I'm making a huge assumption here, that your mom does not speak good English.
No,
my mom doesn't either.
She does not.
So we're on the same page. So what does she think you're fucking doing over here? Does she know what's going on? Like, because it's in another. She's like, what the hell is he's talking about? Yeah, like, does she know what this is and how? Like, my mom's she's Brazilian, and she's sure this is gay. She's 100% sure.
Yeah. No, I don't think like stand-up is not a big thing in Egypt. So she knows I do something on stage. But it's really hard to explain exactly what I do. Like I try to correlate it to some famous comedians or like some people who were in Egypt at some point of time. But I don't think she fully understands. Like, imagines me saying, "Oh my God, kids make great clothes, guys." Like it's definitely out of her radar. Of at least also the depth of it. Like how much time I'm doing this for. Like I would say, like, I have a really, really strict comedy routine, like on how many mics a week, how many minutes a week to be done, how many recordings, clips, podcasts, and shows to do every week. It's very, very systematic. It's rough, very rough.
Man, that's fucking awesome. And because the reason why I wonder about this so much is because I wonder how much people think we're fucking losers right now outside of us are, and how many people think it's cool. Because if I saw my brother and he was in like Israel and he was speaking Israel, don't correct me, Wayne, and I didn't know what he was doing, it would freak me the fuck out. So I wonder how it comes off to my family when they're like, see a clip of me in a dive bar and I'm like talking about Budweiser trans stuff. They're probably
Do they understand English? Do they know exactly that it's Budweiser trans stuff, or they just hear something and they hear laughs?
So the deeper Portuguese of my family won't know, like the aunts and that kind of stuff. And those are the ones who send me Facebook messages that are like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. But my brother and sister and all that, they love coming to the shows, and they're barely, I think.
I'm really surprised I don't know that I've ever asked you this. Has your dad ever seen a lick of your stand-up, Anthony?
No. He just goes, I know you probably talk about me. That's probably a good idea. And that was it. He just gave me the blessing to talk about
so I'll give a little bit of background. I love Anthony's dad. He's great. But I think it was the first time I ever met him. Anthony lived in a duplex type of thing. He was on one side, his parents were on the other. And I was at his house, and he had a printer on the floor. And his dad opened the door like Kramer. And he goes, "What are you doing? Are you doing homework?" He goes, No, I'm going to do homework later. I'm going to fight. He was in college or whatever. I was like, all right. And he just looked at me and then went to close the door. And he flung it back open. He goes, "What is that, a printer?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's a printer." And he was like, "Okay." And he shut the door. That was my only experience with his dad for like months. I don't think I met him months after that. Now, I mean,
He's
I
a
know.
man of not many words. It
was
I
very
knew when
interesting.
I started stand-up I would write about him because he's just done so much crazy things. But like Maz said, you can't just say a dark thing. You have to kind of cleverly wordplay it. So my first joke I tried to do about him was we got him a humane trap to get rid of the animals in his yard. And I came over and he was drowning animals with it. And I was like, oh my God, that's a humane trap. He's like, you talking about the drown box? And it's a funny concept to think about, but it's true. So I have to figure out a way
Yeah.
to massage that in that doesn't get people to get mad. Because every time I said that, the first 6 months I tried to say that, people weren't really mad about it.
It's so hard sometimes. Like, I mean, the whole rule, the universal rule, is it has to be funnier than it's fucked up.
Yeah,
But it's like that's why
more fucked up than
writing
it's funny.
dark is hard because the more fucked up it is, the funnier it needs to be, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, something for someone like me, a 9/11 joke, it would make kind of sense, right? Make kind
Yeah,
of
you
sense.
said earlier about you're like, in this we have to. My joke the plane never landed on the joke, and you could see if you look back on this podcast,
Oh, yeah.
you'll see my face. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. But this one is like, right? It's easy. It's easy, so easy for me to do that. But it has to be funny. Like I cannot yet up to this point find a really, really funny new, unexplored angle, right? Because like I can easily be like, oh my God, it affected me personally. You know, my dad was supposed to be on the flight. He got sick. He missed it. So they had to find another terrorist. That's easy. That anybody can say that, right? One time, I think I was talking to someone and we came with a really interesting, really messed up. I don't think it's funny, but I think it's really clever idea. We said, oh, so bad. I hate that this is going on record. But we said that the Americans were pissed, rightfully so. Middle Easterns were pissed because this does not represent who we are. But also the Japanese were pissed. Because putting your own plane with you on it into the target is kind of their thing.
it really is. Yeah, they
And-
did kind of take that technique.
Yeah, it's sort of like if I was Japanese, that's cultural appropriation kind of in a way, right? And we said that, and we're like, oh boy, this is an unexplored angle, but we need to find funnier than that because it's funny, but it's not funny enough. So I don't do it.
I
have
know
to
what you
find
mean. Yeah,
really
that's
funny.
that's
Yeah.
really deep what you said. It's got to be funnier than it is dark.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I have a joke right now that's working really good, and it's definitely darker than it is funny. I have a joke about peeing on a 7-year-old's face, but it's
Relatable.
relatable.
I think that's because people are like, oh yeah, with you on that one. Yeah,
They are. That's the good part about
Yeah.
the bit is I get them to be, and then I say that, and then they're like, "Damn it!" I'm like, "I gotcha." So you're there. You're with
Oh
me
yeah,
already.
yeah. It's. I feel like that's why I'm getting away with some of the children stuff and some of the, heavier abortion jokes. Because people are like, you know what, dude, I had the same thought at some point. Like it's kind of relatable. It's not really the most relatable, but it's kind of relatable. I don't like kids, and I'm very open about it. A lot of people don't, and even the people who have kids also don't like kids. So
Especially.
it's very universally agreed on concept in a way. That's why I'm getting away with so much more than I should be getting away with. I think I do this long bit about dogs in the U.S. and how different they are and how disabled they are, and I make fun of dogs for a while, and then I say, I hate, which is true, I hate when people treat their dogs like they're kids, because they're not. If I'm driving my car and I kill a dog, your dog, I'm in trouble, but not that much trouble, really, right? If I'm driving my car and I kill your kid, to some, I'm a hero. I give you your life back. I give you 16 years back. You know what I mean?
Oh my god, I think about that.
That's
every
why
day.
people relate so much to this. It's messed up. It's really messed up joke.
That's what comedy's for, though. Comedy's for the parent who gets their kids and they go, "I know I can't kill them. I know I can't, because people will be so bummed if I did." But this
Yeah.
room that I'm sitting in, this guy talks about killing my kids. I'm with him. Yeah, That's definitely the moral of the story here, folks. Your kids deserve to die, but we're just gonna kill them theoretically.
And these
Wayne,
are all
you gotta-
jokes, you know.
They're all jokes, baby. Calm down. You got anything else for us, Wayne, before we wrap this bitch up?
Yeah, did you watch the new Jesselneck special?
Of course, he's big fan. I think he's one of the best to ever misdirect. It's so hard. It's so hard to have an hour of continuous misdirection. It is
When everybody knows it's coming. Every single person knows
and
there's a
you
misdirect
never
coming,
see where
you
it's
still get
going.
'em.
You see where it's coming, but you can never predict where it's going.
Yep.
I feel
paramedic
like that was
joke is so
not
good.
quite true in the beginning. He had so many pedophile jokes. So it was like, oh, here's another one. Oh, here's another one.
But okay, like you know what I like about him? At the end of the day, he's always the bad guy,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Right. I was talking to someone and he brought some really good point. Like Sam Morril, if you look at his jokes, at the end of the day, he's always the cool guy. He's always everybody else is meh, and he's like, oh, I found this really smart way, and fuck you guys, right? I love Sam Morril, like really good writer, but it's like very different perspective, and I don't know if you guys take that in mind when you're writing. I take that in mind when I'm writing, right? Like when I'm writing, I'm like, this has to land either on a child or on me. Like it cannot land on, like I cannot be shitting on anything else.
I've taken a lot of so the thing that I've learned to do recently is by putting it on me, because that's a good point, is I'll take a joke where I'm making fun of something a cousin did or a brother did, and normally I would do the joke like, so my cousin went to this place and he did this fucked up thing and it was really stupid and lame and embarrassing. And then if I'm gonna do that, it's gonna be me who did it. That's the only way that I can do those type of jokes now, where I'm I'm not trying to self-deprecate, but I'm trying to put stakes into the joke. I think it's really easy to say like, this guy did this weirdly embarrassing thing. Isn't that funny? And to have that perspective from far away, like that's gonna be a Sam Morril perspective. This guy did this. Isn't that lame? We should make fun of him. And Jesselneck is going to take the I'm the bad guy approach to the joke, and the thing that the person did that's lame is done by me. And I'm definitely trying to do that myself now. I think, Wayne, you had a joke like that in the very beginning that we turned on you that worked a lot better. I forgot which one it was. Maybe it's the dad bod? I don't know which one it was.
No, I forget what it was, but yeah. To your point, Maz, that's something that I started doing pretty early on was realizing that in my jokes, even though I'm saying it just makes me look ignorant, even if it's so like the whole dispensary thing, where in a way I'm kind of not really making fun of, but it's kind of talking about trans in such a way, but it makes me look like an ignorant person as to why I'm talking about this. So it's other jokes as well. It's just coming down on me. I'm just a guy with a microphone talking instead of poking fun at other people. Good point there.
And I mean, like, yeah, it's always like when I'm writing, it's like, okay, how does this gonna like? I don't want to write something that will hurt someone, right? Like, even though, like, I mean, if kids hear my jokes, they're gonna be really hurt, but I'm pretty sure they're never gonna hear my jokes, so it's okay, right? But I try not to write anything that will like directly hurt minorities, like especially like especially like smaller groups of people. Definitely, that's something I really try to be careful around, especially around dark stuff. It will never be hateful, right? Like, and you have to really push the envelope. Like some people, I see a lot of people are really scared to try some stuff. I'm like, what is going to happen? What do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Go ahead.
I have two rules. I say them over and over again. Jokes. One, I think anything can be funny as long as it's not said in hate and it's clever. And the other thing is, I will never tell a joke on stage that I would not say in front of the person that it's potentially about. You know what I mean? So, like my mother's throat cancer joke. If my mother was alive, I would tell that joke. I've told that joke in front of my father 20 times. I've told it in front of the rest of my family multiple times. If I'm not comfortable making those jokes in front of people, then I will not do them.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like a big tip I got in writing was you have to say it without saying it, right? You have to say, I'm gonna kill myself, without saying it. So you say, "Oh, soon enough, it will stop."
Yeah.
I didn't say anything, right? Like I have a joke now. This is also back to the question of like, do we ever pivot in the middle of a joke? I have a joke right now. I think it's very well written. David Spade liked the joke online, but sometimes I do this joke, and in the middle of the joke, I have to change directions. The joke is some people treat skin color the same way they treat karate belts. I'm brown, which makes me way more dangerous than white. Now, the tag is tricky because the tag, if they're laughing, if they're cracking up so much, the tag is way more dangerous than white, but I'm not the most dangerous. And that's when I have to see what happens when I say that. If I say that and they're cracking, cool, move on. But if you say that and they're not cracking, you have to get the backup plan, which is, but I'm not the most dangerous. I mean, have you seen these men in blue? Very dangerous. And you have to be in one of these camps. You cannot be on hate against both camps. So it's
I like
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's something I can learn from, is saying it without saying it. All the stuff where I go too deep, I'm trying to find the line and I run 15 yards past it.
Which is
that's
awesome.
Usually
that's when you find the
usually where
wall.
I'm trying to hit. That's where you find the wall, definitely.
And you back off a couple of steps, and that's where you need to stop. But
yeah, I've been doing it in the middle of my set now to try to gauge. I have a joke called tardy, where it's basically my son's teacher calls about his chronic tardiness, and I'm like, "Hey, lady, I get he's been a little tardy, but he's my little tardy, okay?" Mm-hmm. And that joke there is definitely, I'm like, this crowd's awesome. They're going to take that, and then the rest of the set's going to go good. Or I just went, like I said, 15 yards past where they're comfortable, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you guys weren't ready for that at all."
yeah,
but I love doing
it. That's the thing. Don't stop doing it though. Like I had the gay son love your son stuff. It didn't work at the beginning when I used to do this joke because I did not fully commit to it. Right. I have another one where I say this girl said I find it really unattractive when men don't open doors, and I'm an idiot. I was like, how do they get in? This joke is used to not
commitment
work.
Commitment based.
You have to full send this joke. Like I used to be like, oh, so I looked at all the men and I was like, how do they get in? No, you have to right away send it. To be honest, saying it without saying it is one of the biggest, smallest advice I ever got. Like it's like tiny advice saved me so much time in writing.
Fucking good advice, Maz. All right, where can the people find you, brother?
Wow, they can find me on Instagram at iwasmaz, IWAS, Maz, M-A-Z. Whoa, I got so excited for this one, for the shout-outs. The camera just gave in.
Slapped your phone across the room.
Yeah, I was like, at iwasmaz on Instagram and TikTok. We're doing pretty good sketches. We have a podcast called Mental Break. Me and Jonathan Anderson, another comic, we get comics on the podcast and we break them mentally. We ask them very deep personal questions about their lives and we get to know who they are behind all of this comedy clowning stuff. And that is, this is called Mental Break Pod on Instagram. If you follow me, you'll find it. Oh my God, I am suffering so bad. So sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Yeah, I am featuring in the Great Fall Comedy Club in Maine this weekend. I'm going to be at Nick's at New Year's Eve. Follow my Instagram. You'll find all of that fun stuff.
Go see Maz. And if you want to see where me and Wayne are at, openmicpain.com/shows. And that's been a worthy stab in the quest for laughs. Bye.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's okay if you're gay. I'm still going to love you. Quite a bit less, but I'm going to love you.